Welcome back to the Three Princes of Serendip. And we are moving on now to Chapter 5, The Dangerous Demon. And just to recap, the Emperor Varam became angry with Delirama in Chapter 4, and she's now lost in the wilderness, and he's sad. He's becoming sick with sadness over the mistake that he made in succumbing to his anger. He's trying his hardest to find her. The three princes are off to India to try to overcome something called the fearsome hand. I believe that Chapter 5 will be about their journey toward that kingdom in India where they'll do that work. So we'll see what surprises are in store for us here. So without further ado, Chapter 5, The Dangerous Demon, in The Three Princes of Serendip by Elizabeth Jamison Hodges, from a very old folk tale from the land that we now know as Sri Lanka, but in those days it was known as Serendip, which when you translate it means the dwelling place of lions island. Okay, here we go. The three princes crossed the desert by camel. Then once more on horseback they found themselves with many travelers in India. Their road lay between luxuriant forests, where bulbuls sang in the daylight and tigers prowled at night. Around the villages the country people had built high walls, so they slept when it was dark and awoke smiling with the sun. Late one afternoon, the three brothers came to the country of the Vakatakas, and in it to a village with a few houses of mud bricks and thatched roofs. Here also was a large farm for the raising of peacocks. These stately birds had black eyes, feathery crowns, and turquoise tails, bright with circles of blue which looked like strangely glowing eyes. Learning they had visitors, the people ran out of their homes and welcomed the three young men. The people bowed, pressed their hands together in greeting, and led the brothers into the cool shade of an old Asoka tree. Its blossoms, the colors of 1,000 tiny fires, were reflected gold and red in a curving pool. Among the villagers was their headman. Bowing politely, he asked the brothers if he might render them any service. "I thank you for your kindness," Balakrama said. "We are traveling to the country of Queen Parvati, hoping to execute an errand for His Imperial Majesty, the Emperor Varam of Persia." An expression of both astonishment and awe crossed the face of the headman. He said, "Our village is honored by your presence, for I perceive that you have entered into the councils of the great. Permit me to conduct you to a nearby monastery. In that place you will be suitably received and may talk with men of learning like yourselves." Great was the surprise of the three princes when they were led to a monastery lodged in the steep face of a rocky hillside. Even more were they amazed when, drawing nearer, they discovered that here, made all of stone, were porches, columns, and carvings as intricate as if they had been formed of wood. Moreover, it was clear from the sound of metal striking upon stone that the cutting of rock was still going forward. At this strange and vast establishment, the princes were welcomed by a chief monk, the abbot in charge, and invited to stay as long as they could. He gave them a place to rest and a supper of millet, fresh butter, and beans. The next day he showed them many monks in yellow robes, hard at work, carving room after room out of the solid rock. Some were living quarters with tables and couches of stone. One was a chapel with a wondrously sculpted figure of the Buddha. Also, there were several halls immense in size. These had been plastered, then ornamented with pictures of men and women, saints and kings, and scenes of horses, elephants, geese, and flowering lotus plants. The artist's monks had painted them with such sure strokes in black, red, yellow, green, and creamy white that they seemed to have been done by magic. As soon as possible, the three brothers talked to the abbot about their earnest hope of overcoming the fearsome hand. Remember, the fearsome hand is this hand that comes out of the waters in the land of Parvati, Queen Parvati in India, and if they don't reflect it with a mirror of justice, this hand comes down and scoops up a villager and casts him into the sea. So the mirror of justice is their defense against the fearsome hand, but the mirror of justice belongs back with Emperor Bahram in Persia. So that's why the princes are here, just to review. Okay, on we go. If the tree of success should bow in our favor, Balakrama said, we shall beg Her Majesty Queen Parvati to let us pluck the mirror of justice as one would pluck a ripe mango and take it back to Persia. Then you will be welcome indeed, the abbot said. The magic glass now spares her country something of grief, for the hand no longer moves to seize upon men and cast them into the sea. However, the mirror does not prevent the dreadful apparition of the hand itself, nor the terror it inspires. I pray we may be fortunate, Vijayo said, in helping to remove this terrible affliction. I have no doubt, the abbot said, that you will try your utmost. Therefore I shall send news of your arrival to the governor of our district, that he may aid you on your way. Allow me to warn you, however, that many have tried and many have failed at what you propose to do. All were turned back by a mighty demon named Asura, who delights in the terror which the hand inspires. And how did he thwart them? Asked Rajasingha, the youngest prince. In reply, the abbot explained, to reach the country of Queen Parvati, and even the city of our own governor, one must cross a river. Beyond it lies the forest stronghold of Asura. Although he dwells inside the earth, his 7 arms are all of such great strength that he can raise the very earth beneath a horse and unseat any rider whom he chooses. Many young men have been thrown headlong to the ground. Others he has driven back, mounted still, but faint with fear. For those have seen the road become so steep along its course, and so full of danger with falling trees and rolling boulders, that they could not stay upon it. This is news of vast import, Vijayo said. But tell me, pray, how can Asura know of our intent to overcome the fearsome hand? It has been said from ancient times, the kindly abbot answered, that through the cracks and fissures of the earth he can look upon a man's eyes and read therein the purpose of his heart and mind. For the sake of your lives, therefore, it might be best not to pursue further the object you have stated. The princes bowed and thanked the abbot for his warning, but being full of courage, they were not dissuaded from their purpose. When he saw that their minds remained unchanged, the abbot said, I shall search our ancient books. Perhaps in these some way may be described to circumvent Asura. The 3 brothers thanked him and slept peacefully through the night. When they awoke, he was looking down upon them with grave and tired eyes. I have perused our books of sacred meaning and of magic lore, he told them, a sadness in his voice. But nothing certain have I found on overcoming demons. Here's a picture of the abbot himself. Only one passage may be helpful in this matter. He unrolled a small scroll made from strips of palm leaves and read, One feather from a peacock's tail in wisdom's hand may oft prevail. Vijayo said, Pray tell us how we should construe this. Alas, the abbot said, I cannot do so. Still it is possible to follow even a dark saying part of the way. Therefore, with my prayers, I present to each of you one feather from a peacock's tail. May they serve you well. The princes accepted these gifts with many thanks, though wondering how they might be employed. The way to the district capital was long, and while the brothers waited for word from the governor, they wandered freely about the monastery, looking at its great pictures. One day, they stopped beside a young artist monk who had just finished the portrait of an old man. His painting was very softly bathed in sunshine, reflected from the sky by a mirror of polished metal. This had been set in an outer doorway to cast light inside the wall. Inside, upon the wall. The princes stood beside the young artist and admired his work. With great skill he had used reddish-brown for the wrinkled skin, and black lines for the old man's short beard and sparse hair. But the eyes had been painted in white, as bright and shining as the garment falling around his lean body. "Now there was a wide-awake fellow," Balakrama said, "and you have drawn him with much spirit." "A strange man," the artist said. "He came to us on foot, a tired traveler. After I had given him something to eat, I persuaded him, but only with some difficulty, to sit here a few moments, that I might study him for this painting. At first, as you said, he seemed wide awake, but I believe he was very weary, for in a short time, as it takes a young lion to jump across a brook, he fell asleep. Then an odd thing happened." "Pray what?" said Rajasingha. Without his waking, the young monk replied, "This old fellow's lips began to move, forming softly spoken words, all clothed in verse." The princes looked at one another. "And what did he say?" asked Balakrama. "Now that would be hard to tell," the artist answered, "for his speech was not only swift but somewhat mumbled. Moreover, when suddenly the sound of stone-cutting rose with special loudness, he awoke trembling and was silent." "I beg you, sir, stir your memory," Balakrama said. "Can you recall any fragment of the verse?" The young man looked thoughtful for a moment. "Only this," he said. Then slowly, as if searching in a dark woodland of his mind, he recited just these two lines. "One may seek, but cannot borrow, this mystery lying close to sorrow." "How like the others," Vijayo whispered to his brothers. "Here, look here," Balakrama said. He pointed to something in the picture they had not noticed earlier. "What held he here?" "A case made of silver, I believe," the artist said. "Perhaps for scrolls of writing. He had it hidden under his cloak. Only when that slipped aside, as he nodded, did I see it." Rajasingha said, "As surely as this floor of rock is firm beneath us, he was Athenicius." At this moment the abbot came into the hall, bearing a message from the governor of the district. He would deem it an honor to receive the three young men as visitors, and had sent an officer to be their guide. The brothers therefore soon made ready to depart. Before leaving the hall, however, Rajasingha said to the artist, "Pray tell us, when last did you see this old one whom your talent has so brilliantly depicted?" "Your words robe me in undue honor," the young monk said modestly, "but I can tell you he was here this morning, and when leaving started towards our district capital." "Thither we go," Rajasingha said, "and with our horses we can surely overtake a traveler on foot." In haste, therefore, the three brothers thanked the abbot, the artist, and others at the monastery, and after the 2 lines of verse had been written down on some long strips of talipot palm leaves, they set out swiftly with their guide. Hoping to find the ancient seer with his formula, the three brothers rode so fast that the ground itself seemed hurrying to meet them. But though they saw men working in the fields, women carrying jars of water on their heads, and hundreds of people traveling, nowhere did they glimpse even the shadow of an old man with flashing eyes and a cylinder of silver. At last they neared a wide river, where a small ferry took men and beasts 2 at a time across the water. Here their guide said, "Before we venture on that ferry, tell me if by any chance you come with purpose to subdue the fearsome hand." "That is our hope," said Balakrama. The governor's officer reined in his horse, and his face became long and gloomy. "Stop now," he said. "Turn back, for as soon as you have crossed this river, even before you try to follow the road which you see going through the forest, a demon named Asura will in your eyes perceive the purpose of your hearts." "And what will befall then?" Rajasingha asked. "Once across the river," the officer said, "you will have to flee from falling trees and thundering boulders. The land itself will rise and shake beneath you. I beg you, worthy gentlemen, go no further." Rajasingha paused and then said to his brothers, "Who knows? Perhaps Asura will be away or even fail to guess our errand. I pray you wait here with our guide, for I am strongly minded to test this matter for myself." His brothers tried to prevent him, each saying he would be the first to cross the river, but since only one man and his horse could go at a time, and Rajasingha had spoken bravely, it was finally agreed that he should have his way. As the ferryman rowed him across the river, the youngest prince said to him, "Tell me, have you taken in your boat today an old man with eyes that flash like fire, an old man carrying a cylinder of silver?" "It's strange that you should ask this," the man replied, "for on the shore behind us this very morning there was an old fellow matching your description. I hurried to take him in my boat, but when I reached the bank and looked up, I saw only a great bird flying. He had fiery eyes and shiny feathers like the golden one of Indra." "Did anyone else see it also?" said Rajasingha. "None that I know," replied the man. "I have asked many whom I ferried here today, but each, it seems, was too busy thinking of what he had left behind or of what he would find ahead to glance up at the sky." The boat soon reached the bank of the river near the forest of Asura. Rajasingha, thinking only of the boatman's story and not of coming danger, paid his fare, and, leading his horse, stepped slowly off onto the shore. At once his thoughts were changed. His feet had barely reached the ground when a deep fissure opened before him in the earth, and there was a great roar like 1,000 lions. The ground beneath him trembled, and the land which lay ahead began to rise up and up until it was as high as a mountain. The road, which had stretched smooth and level, ran almost straight uphill. At a distance it was lost to sight in the bank of lowering clouds. Rajasingha stood aghast. "Come back! Come back!" the ferryman shouted above the terrific din. "A mighty demon lives beneath this land. Surely your eyes betrayed some goal that has enraged him. Come, sir, come. Let me take you back at once." Rajasingha hesitated for a moment. Then, when he saw giant trees falling over and tremendous boulders of tumbling against each other and rolling down the side of the mountain, he ran back with his frightened horse onto the boat. As soon as the ferry set out upon the river, the strange elevation slowly began to sink. With much rumbling and hissing, it once more became level land. The noise, too, finally subsided. When the youngest prince had joined his brothers, he found them nearly overwhelmed with astonishment. Yet all three were still undaunted in their purpose. The guide, however, looked very solemn. "Now that you've seen what the demon can do," he said, "I beg you not to anger him again by pressing forward." "But is there no remedy?" Vijayo said. "None that I know of," the governor's officer said, "so long as Asura can read the purpose in one's eyes, and who can change his face?" "Who indeed?" Balakrama said. His glance had fallen upon the peacock feather given him by the abbot. On it, shaped like eyes, were small blue circles. The oldest prince held a feather in front of his face, so that the upper part of his visage appeared turquoise in color, with two new and strangely glowing eyes of blue. The feather covered his eyes, yet he could see his way through the tiny openings between its particles. "Let me make trial," Balakrama said, "of this small device which hides my eyes." So the ferryman, with some reluctance, took the oldest prince and his horse across the river. Once there, Balakrama stepped ashore. Holding the horse's reins in his left hand, he kept his eyes hidden with the peacock feather held in his right hand. Like Rajasingha, he saw a fissure in the earth, but the ground beyond seemed firm and still. He advanced a step. No boulders fell. No trees were toppled. He moved again. And still no disturbance seemed to come. At last he ran forward, and even then the land stood firm beneath him. There was no question. Asura had been outwitted. When his two brothers saw that all was well, they were full of joy and hastened to cross the river. Each covered his eyes with a peacock feather. The guide came also, but without concern, for his country's visitors seemed well protected, and he himself had made no resolve to oppose the fearsome hand. After all the travelers had been rowed across the river, they thanked and paid the ferryman, then hastily set out over the land where deep below Asura lived. Masking their eyes, the three princes rode along without mishap, and soon the demon's woods were well behind them. Not until then did they pause, and not until then did Rajasingha tell his brothers what the ferryman had earlier told him about the old man and the golden bird. "So strong is the magic of Athenum," Balakrama said, "I doubt not that he can as easily take the form of a bird as of a man. So I believe the ferryman spoke truly, and once more we have missed the aged seer." "This I think too," Vijayo said, with a sigh as sad as the sound of autumn wind sweeping through a bamboo grove. So the three brothers were once more discouraged in their search for the formula. Having at last reached the city of the district governor, however, they were met and greeted with honor and rejoicing, which much raised their spirits. "Thrice 3 times you are welcome to our country, this city, and my house," the governor said. "Not only do I hear that you are come to oppose the fearsome hand, but also that the mighty demon Asura was no match for your courage and your cunning. Hence shall we endeavor to show you the tree of our welcome and the fruit of our gratitude." At these words the three princes bowed, and Balakrama said, "Thank you for your courteous welcome. But not yet have we succeeded in our purpose towards the hand, and it was one of your own countrymen who gave us the means to thwart Asura's power." Delighted by the modesty of his visitors, the governor called in the members of his council. The first to come was a leader of caravans. He wished to provide the princes with a large company of men and camels for their journey to the country of Queen Parvati. The second was a Shresthin, a banker, who offered to send letters to his many friends so that the three might be welcomed and rest their heads in comfort along the way. A goldsmith was the third. He gave each of the princes a chain of finest gold, and to them all a letter to the leader of his guild in Her Majesty's capital. Finally there came a scribe, who wrote on palm leaves with a piece of iron. Soon he had sent off all the letters, including one from the governor to Queen Parvati. This went by special courier to let her know as soon as possible that important visitors were on their way. Accepting with many thanks all these kind and unexpected offers, the three brothers went to stay in the residence of the governor until all had been prepared for their further journey. Then, taking leave with added thanks, they set out once more. Like his brothers, Prince Vijayo was deeply moved by all the kindness he had met, but he often sighed. He thought of the fair Princess Purandok, whom he had left in Persia. He knew that with the distance of each day's journey she was farther away. Nevertheless, the memory of her joyous singing gave him a lighter heart. So thinking of her, he made this song, the Pantoum for the Princess Purandok. My heart will always hear your song. Asura cannot hide the sound. Through the earth, though the earth may rumble along, with his anger underground, Asura cannot hide the sound. While woodlands slide and boulders roll, with his anger underground, when he learns our princely goal, while woodlands slide and boulders roll, though the earth may rumble along, when he learns our princely goal, my heart will always hear your song. There we go. The end of chapter 5. Another very hopeful and happy ending as the princes proceeded with courage and kindness and with wisdom as well to overcome Asura, the dangerous demon, and make their way further towards India, where they're going to help the wonderful Queen Parvati there. So again, they were surprised with gifts and blessings that were unexpected because they continued to pursue what their father had asked them to do, which is to find that great seer who carries a silver container, a silver cylinder that inside holds what they believe to be the formula for death to dragons, which has promise for saving their country from much difficulty. Thanks for joining me for Chapter 5. Next time we're going to enjoy the story of the fearsome hand in Chapter 6. Have a wonderful sleep and a tremendous tomorrow.